Welcome back. We're going to continue talking with Bobby Charles, former Assistant Secretary of State, about what's afoot in our country and, well, internationally. Next week, the World Health Assembly is meeting in Geneva. Frankly, until recently, I'd never heard of the World Health Assembly, but it's all of the nations of the world who are, as it happens, all members of the World Health Organization. And they're going to be considering amendments, including 13 proposed rather clandestinely by the Biden administration, which I personally believe, and I think anybody looking at the plain facts and content of these amendments would arrive at the conclusion that it is an effort to transfer critical sovereign decision making about public health, especially in emergency situations, to unaccountable and, frankly, compromised by the Chinese communists and seriously deficient bureaucrats like Tedros Ghebreyesus, the Director General of the World Health Organization. We're going to continue exploring what's going on in matters like this with a man who spent some considerable time in high levels of our diplomatic corps. Bobby, talk about this effort, if you would. There are some who say, oh, no, it's not that big a deal. It's not that important an organization. The changes are not that material. Have you had a chance to look into this, and what's your conclusion?
Yeah, I have. And so let me address both the content and the process. So, multilateral organizations exist for all kinds of reasons. And in general, they are supposed to promote dialogue. At no point are they supposed to usurp the sovereignty of their members. That's not part of the membership agreement. We have treaties that are passed, and they, of course, have to be ratified by our Senate. And they typically take a long time to get ratified by the Senate because the contents change the way in which countries agree to cooperate, for example, with the International Court or with something tied to a national security commitment. So these are treaties are critical in this environment. This health organization is sort of an offshoot of an offshoot, but it's dangerous because when you get first of all, if you have just this one organization and no other, essentially try to take away, when we say the sovereignty, what we mean is the decision making ability of the American people to decide how they will manage their own health and not take a
Right.
dictate from a world organization. Short version here is the dangers are that you set a precedent where you're not bringing this back for treaty ratification, but it's a substantive amendment that changes the organization. On the content, it would clearly take away from Americans all their freedoms that they were kind of eager to get back after this Chinese driven pandemic. And the third thing is China itself, Frank. And I know this is a dear issue constantly for you, but it should be now for a growing number of Americans to understand that what we're looking at isn't just a Biden administration pitch forward because, well, who cares, and world organizations are good and we're just going to let them kind of help us figure out how to save the earth or help save our own health. It's not just giving away sovereignty to a benign organization. Those organizations, including that one in particular, China has tried very hard to become the dominant force in. So, before you hand off the baton, make sure you're not handing it off at the turn to the wrong team.
Amen. And again, this isn't something that we just have to speculate about in the abstract, Bobby. This is something we've actually witnessed. And the really important point of this is even if you think that these amendments aren't what I think their plain meaning suggests they are in terms of this surrender of sovereignty, we saw even before these amendments kicked in and the impact I fear that we think it'll have. The WHO, the World Health Organization, under this Dr. Tedros character, at the direction of the Chinese Communist Party, helped foist on our country the lockdowns, the quarantines, the mask mandates, the vaccines that hadn't been fully tested, the vaccine mandates, the vaccine passports. And that was just, on the basis of their say-so back at the beginning of this exercise. So this is a real concern. I appreciate so much your weighing in on it, and I hope that you'll do so with your team at the Association of Mature American Citizens, of whom you are a formidable spokesman. And it's vital that that community in particular be heard from at this moment about not surrendering our sovereignty. Bobby, we just have 2 minutes left. I wanted to ask you very quickly about something you wrote about at amac.us, amac.us, namely a very powerful critique of what this so-called January 6th Select Committee in the House of Representatives is up to, now subpoenaing even members of the chamber itself.
Yeah. So just a quick word on that. As you know, Frank, I was counsel to the largest part of the Oversight Committee for 5 years under Newt Gingrich, and
Right.
and staff director for a big chunk of it. And what you're witnessing here is not. You can use the word unprecedented, but I don't think that really carries the full weight of what I'm trying to say. It's a miscarriage of due process with intent. And deliberately. And so, what do I mean? I mean that you have a select committee, and select committees are typically set up as temporary committees. You have a select committee that has no ranking member. The typical way you set up every committee is that Republicans pick their people, Democrats pick their people. If the Democrats are the majority, they have more people, but you still have a ranking member. In this committee, there's no ranking member. The House put forward names and they were rejected. Now they're doing something really quite remarkable. I mean, there's 6 or 7 other investigations that are substantive, not political, but they're taking this political one, and we've got people still behind bars that have not been charged by the hundreds, which is really disconcerting. That's kind of a third world Soviet kind of way to look at problems. But they're now subpoenaing, they're issuing a subpoena, which if you don't comply with it, you go to jail
Mhm.
if you're in contempt.
Or
They're
at least
issuing
there's that threat.
subpoenas, but they're
Exactly
issuing
right.
subpoenas, Frank, of other members of Congress.
Right.
So this is not what a committee is supposed to do. And if you think this is if you think this is the end of the world and the end of the earth, then you need to give it to the Justice Department.
Yeah, it's a kangaroo court they're running there now, Bobby. We have to leave it at that, I'm afraid. Thank you for your time today, my friend, and for your service to our country, which continues now as the spokesman for the Association for Mature American Citizens. Come back to us again soon. I hope the rest of you will do the same next time. Until then, this is Frank Gaffney. Thanks for listening and for helping us protect the country we love. Go forth and multiply.